Hey everyone, welcome back to the Craft Parenting Podcast, the podcast about two Cincinnati craft beer lovers with a parenting problem.
I did not fall asleep last night with the toddler, causing us to delay recording an episode. So I don't think we have a problem.
Are you implying that I have a problem?
Maybe.
Well, she's very persuasive.
And snuggly.
Wow, that's debatable. She's wiggly. How about that?
She did fall asleep with her feet on the pillows and her face very close to my butt tonight. You do you, kid. You do you.
Thank you so much for being here. My name is Joe Ludwig, and with me is my lovely wife and co-host, Caroline.
Hey, boo. How be you?
How's it going, Caroline?
I have crafting ADD, but it's fine. It's fine. No problems.
Is it though?
I mean, it will be a problem when our house explodes with craft supplies, but this embroidery is going to be real cute.
When our house explodes with craft supplies? Have you seen the house?
It'll be a race between the craft supplies and the children's toys. We'll see which one explodes first.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have another great show planned out for you this week. We are going to be talking about St. Patrick's Day.
It's Paddy, not Patty.
Yes. Follow us for more great tips about St. Patrick's Day. But we are going to talk a little bit about St. Patrick's Day. We talked about it in a lot more detail last year. If you are a long listener, I think it was episode 3.
That sounds about right. I don't know whether or not I want to listen to that episode. I don't know how cringe I will feel listening to the episode, but I'm sure we have some good details in there.
We talked about that one year where we were a groupie to a local Irish band, and we traveled from bar to bar when we did not have kids.
That was fun. We should do that again, but children.
Although we had dogs. We had 2 dogs.
We either stopped to take care of the dogs partway through the day, or we had someone else take care of the dogs. I don't quite remember.
No, we definitely took a break.
That's good. It's always important to take breaks.
I mean, we went to a bar at 8 a.m., so there was that.
Yeah.
It was a Saturday, I believe.
It was either a Saturday or it was a day that both of us were off of work. Probably it was a Saturday.
Pretty sure that day was a Saturday. It was back when Molly Malone's was a thing.
Molly Malone's Pleasant Ridge. I think Molly Malone's Covington is still a thing.
But this week's episode, we're going to touch a little bit about St. Patrick's Day, and then we're going to dive into Irish beer.
We get to swim in beer?
Figurative.
I feel like that's not hygienic, though, so maybe let's not do that, but can we drink beer?
There was a movie. I'm trying to figure out what it's called.
3 days later.
Do you remember this movie? Bob and Doug McKenzie, The Great White North?
I do not think that I've ever seen that movie.
That's not the name of the movie. They have an album, I guess. But it's based on a movie. What is the name of the movie? I'm on Wikipedia.
Wikipedia.org?
Yeah, wikipedia.org. Bob and Doug McKenzie. They have a movie, and in this movie, I believe it's I think it's this movie. It's a silly movie. It's kind of like these bad guys are trying to do something, but it's in a brewery, and these drunks get mixed up in it. They're Canadian, and they try to kill one of them by pushing them into the tank, and he just ends up drinking all of the beer.
I have not seen or heard of this drug-induced dream of yours. I'm sure this movie exists.
Oh, it definitely exists. It's either whatever movie Bob and Doug McKenzie is in. Strange Brew. That's what it's called. It is called Strange Brew. And it stars Bob and Doug McKenzie, Those are the character names.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really funny. It's really
I have not seen or heard of this movie. It is a 1983 film. This is why I haven't heard of it. I did not even exist then. Okay, but it's got the dad from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah, but you know Star Wars. Monty Python.
But these are all very common, ingrained in our culture movies. This is not.
So there's an evil brewmeister, and he's perfecting a secret plan to take over the world by infusing the beer with a mind-controlled drug. We should watch this movie.
So while I do agree we should watch this movie and possibly do a live commentary, one, we haven't even finished the intro of this episode yet, and we're already off the rails.
Off the rails.
Two, my glasses are empty. Do I get to drink any beer?
All right. So we have another great show planned out for you this week. We're going to talk about St. Patrick's Day and Irish beer, as I've said multiple times.
And apparently about Strange Brew, the movie from 1983.
So let's get started. So as stated, Caroline, our glasses are empty because we have two different beers that we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to talk about the beer, and then we're going to drink the beer.
Why can't I drink the beer while you talk about the beer? I have to follow the instructions. Okay. So
I guess the first one we are going to talk about is Nitro Luck, which is an Irish-style dry stout, purchased at BC's Battle Lodge in Montgomery.
Were you there recently or something?
I was there. I was there with the Truth Beer and Podsequence duo, Julia and Marco, and some other people were there too, so that was fun.
I mean, so you guys talked about Bruised Traveler and Outcast podcast and Cincy Brewcast, even though he didn't release an episode.
Yeah, he was there. The gnome.
Craft Parenting podcast, Sonder Stories, and that covers all the Cincinnati craft beer podcasts, right?
That's it. That's everything in my memory bank that I know of.
So we're going to drink Luck Irish Style Dry Stout, Stately Plush Luck Nitro Stout poured from the can, a creamy-headed pint bearing notes of bold coffee, toasted malt, and rich chocolate. Velvety as a tenor, jet black, and agreeably dry. Count yourself among the lucky. So I'm supposed to shake vigorously, crack slowly, pour vertically, but not shake vigorously and pour vertically at the same time.
That's good to know.
And then watch the cascade and enjoy the beer. So I'm going to shake.
And this is a Rheingeist
vigorously.
Beer. You didn't say who it was from.
Oh, sorry. It's Rheingeist. It is.
They're from Cincinnati, Ohio, over the Rhine.
4.8% alcohol by volume. If you have not heard of Rheingeist and you live in the United States, I'm sure they're coming to a city near you soon. They're trying real hard for national distribution.
Yeah, they just announced they're going to, Michigan. And this is a tall boy. It's a 16 ounce. Which everywhere but the U.S., that's...
Ooh, watch that cascade.
There it goes.
Ooh. Platinum Patreon members can see what's going on. Or no. Ooh, what are the name of the Patreon level tiers?
I think you can make them up.
Mama Needs a Box of Wine. Tier Patreon members can watch this on the live stream video.
But while we're waiting for that to aerate, I guess, what are you doing?
I need to wash my hand because I got beer on it.
Oh. Well, I was kind of interested. I wanted to research nitro beers because...
What is this? Some kind of nerd thing? Because you research nitro beers and...
Anyways, I researched nitro beers because we are having a nitro beer, and Guinness is famous for their nitro beers. So this is kind of what I found out. And where did I get this from? Because this is not coming from me. This is coming from an article called "What the Hell is a Nitro Beer?"
What the hell is a nitro beer, Joe? Can you answer that question for me?
It is from AmericanCraftBeer.com. So they say the nitro beer's roots lie in Dublin with a mathematician named Michael Ash, who had been hired by Guinness in 1951 to help refine an unstable and finicky draft beer process in Ireland. Jeff Offworth, the man who invented Guinness, details his history and how it came up with nitrogen as an alternative. Basically, nitro being stable and inert seemed to be a perfect dispensing gas. Once the technical hurdles were overcome, it was a massive success. The process revolutionized Guinness and Irish stouts. It also created a brewing technique that remains vital today. So until the late 1980s, nitro beers were only available on draft. Then Guinness revolutionized the industry yet again with the invention of the plastic widget that dispensed nitrogen into cans and bottles under pressure. The widget, which allowed for the nitro experience at home, was in 2004 voted the greatest invention of the last 40 years in the UK. The internet came in a distant second.
I would agree with that. That was a good poll.
Fast forward to 2011, and Left Hand Brewing introduced the nitro beer concept to American craft beer fans, and it becomes an instant success. Unlike Guinness, Left Hand's iconic milk stout nitro didn't use a widget, but it recreated the nitro effect in its bottles and later cans. And its success influenced other craft breweries like Sam Adams and Firestone Walker to craft their own nitro beer options. So let's take a step back. In the brewing process, you have yeast, you add sugar in the form of malt, I guess.
Yes. So sugar in the form of malt. The only time you add actual sugar is when you are bottle conditioning your beer. So that's when you want to give the yeast more food to eat, so they poop out more CO2, so they carbonate your beer for you.
But yeast eats sugar, poops out CO2.
And alcohol.
And then if you want to put it in draft, you have to force carbonate it because the CO2 leaves, I guess, right?
Yes, you want the CO2 to leave during the fermentation process.
While it's fermenting, you want the yeast to make the alcohol, but there's a way to dispense the CO2.
Yeah, because you don't want your fermentation vessel to explode.
So then you have basically alcoholic flat beer.
Yes, aka what I drink every other day because I fall asleep before I finish my beer and don't want to waste it.
Yeah, so then your options are you can force carbonate it in a keg. And if you're a home brewer, it's a lot different than if you're in industry. When we tried to do it, and failed miserably.
We had some seal issues. We just have to fix our kegs and we should be fine.
So you hook up the keg to the CO2 and then you have to agitate the keg.
Yes, and put the CO2 in the out so it goes through all the beer.
Agitate means you have to shake it.
Yes, you have to shake the keg and you force you put the CO2 in the out. There's an in and an out.
Yeah.
The out's what you pour from, but that's what you put your CO2 line into to force carbonate it. And then you swap it to your in line so you can pour it on draft.
And then the other way you can do it, of course, if you're home brewing at least, you can put the uncarbonated beer, fermented beer, but uncarbonated, into bottles, and you can put sugar in the bottles, and that'll...
Historically, that's what we do.
Over time, that'll carbonate the beer. And then if you have the resources, the other option, of course, is nitro, which in my experience is more for darker beers.
I would concur with that.
It makes the beer smoother and way better, in my opinion. There's definitely a difference between a normal carbonated beer and a nitro beer. Not really a difference in taste. Not really a difference in like alcohol or anything like that.
But yeah, because you can definitely tell the difference between a flat beer and a properly carbonated beer.
Well, I mean,
so because you can tell how much the carbonation makes a difference, and that's CO2. So nitrogen, that gives you a whole new experience.
Well, my point was, if we had luck, just normal luck without nitrogen.
Yeah.
And then we tasted the luck with nitro, the two would be way different in taste.
Yes. Yes, they would.
One would be more bubbly, I guess, and the nitro, the normal carbonated, CO2 carbonated would be more bubbly, and the nitro would be more smooth.
Yes.
And silky, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of my, I guess, tangent on nitro beers. But what do you think of the beer?
It's pretty good. It's nice and smooth. It reminds me of a Guinness, but is definitely not Guinness. And like not in a bad way.
It's pitch black in color. And you would think that it would taste like how it looks.
Technically, it's like ruby. It's a very, very dark ruby. Because like if you hold it up to the light, if you hold it up to the light, you can see like red around the edges.
Okay, so it's like brown. But when it's like just like on the table, it looks black, But you would think that it would taste how it looks, like really dark, really heavy, but it's actually really clean and, well, really light, lighter than you would think, at least. Same thing with like a Guinness too.
People are always like, Guinness is a dark beer, and I'm like, not really.
And it's actually really high, not that high in alcohol either. Like
half and half with apple cider, chef's kiss, so delicious.
Yeah, any kind of stout. So let's move on, and we'll get to the second beer later. So now it is time for What's Bugging Caroline in Children's TV, where you, Caroline, tell us all about the lack of physics and logic in children's TV. So take it away.
In this episode of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, Pluto needs a bath because he's all muddy, and we're going to a tea and biscuits and dog biscuits party. So, of course, Pluto needs to look good for this event. All of the Mousecatools are bath-related, but the only one we use for Pluto's actual bath time at the start of the episode is the Mystery Mousecatool, which is bubble bath. So our other tools are rubber duckies, a beach towel, and a hairdryer? Yes, a hairdryer is what the other one is. So Mickey and Pluto end up in bubbles from the bubble bath and float to lots of places. Because one, yes, you can be completely surrounded by a bubble and float up into the sky. That is totally how that works. And of course, hijinks ensue. They use their Mousecatools in some ways more realistic than others. They use the bath towel to cover cacti that could poke their bubble and burst them, and then cause them to fall on the cacti and get hurt. Okay, that's good. But then we use the rubber duckies to weigh down our balloons so we can get back to Earth from space or whatever planet Mickey Mouse Clubhouse is on. We've established that it's not Mars and it's not the moon. Tentatively, we're assuming that it's Earth, but it's a very weird Earth. And so they end up back home. And of course, their bubbles pop right over a giant mud puddle. So Mickey and Pluto are now covered in mud and have also gotten Clarabelle and Bella, her dog, who was there for the dog biscuits, covered in mud. So, oh no, now everyone needs a bath. The party then turns into a tea and biscuits and dog biscuits bubble bath party, in which all of the characters are now in a bubble bath. Are we swingers now?
With their clothes on.
Well, and they're all, I was going to get there, and they were all in their actual clothes, like not swimsuits, their clothes, in a bubble bath, eating food. That kind of screams like swingers or orgies to me. As an adult, I know little children will not see it that way, but it was a very weird way to end an episode. I don't want to encourage my children to eat in the bathtub. I have a hard enough time teaching them to not drink the bath water. Apparently, that stuff tastes delicious and I am missing out. But please, let's not eat in the bath. And why are we in the bath, fully clothed with all of our friends? I'm so confused and concerned.
Can't wait to title this YouTube video. Is Mickey Mouse a swinger?
I mean, he has not put a ring on Minnie's finger yet. So Joe proposed to me in Disney World. And anytime we got our photo taken with Minnie after we got engaged, the cast members told us to ask Minnie when she was going to get married to Mickey, and had us ask Mickey when the hell he was finally going to propose to Minnie. Like, every single cast member told us to do that. So obviously, I mean, I'm sure they're in a committed relationship, but Mickey ain't trying to tie that down. And that's problematic because Minnie's probably the best he's ever going to be able to do. Yeah, I know you have a Mouska empire, but you really need to lock that down.
So now we are moving on to the main topic of this week's episode, where we are going to talk all about St. Patrick's Day and the main event, or one of the main events of St. Patrick's Day, which of course is the beer.
I mean, I might not be very Irish, but I will not say no to a drinking holiday.
I know. And we have the Wednesday before off, or I do.
Yeah, you do.
I'm going to need my sister to coordinate her days off with St. Patrick's Day so I can take off St. Patrick's Day.
It would be nice.
I know, right?
We need to tell her to plan her life events around our desires.
All right. So St. Patrick's Day, or the Feast of St. Patrick, is a cultural or religious celebration held on March 17th, the traditional death day of St. Patrick.
Most saints are celebrated on their death day. It's kind of depressing when you think about it.
Yeah.
But it's a good reason to party still.
St. Patrick, of course, is the patron saint of Ireland. And by the way, I'm getting this from the Arbiter of Truth, a.k.a. Wikipedia. So in case you're wondering.
Is that a website that's just full of St. Patrick's Day facts?
It is. It's full of St. Patrick's Day facts.
Wikipedia kind of sounds like it could be Gaelic or something like that. Observed by the Catholic Church, the Anglican Communion, especially the Church of Ireland, the Eastern Orthodox Church, and the Lutheran Church, the day commemorates St. Patrick and the arrival of Christianity in Ireland. It also celebrates the heritage and culture of the Irish in general.
Celebrations generally involve public parades, the wearing of green attire, or shamrocks. Historically, the Lenten restrictions on eating and drinking alcohol were lifted for the day, which has encouraged and, quote, propagated the holiday's tradition of alcohol consumption.
Kegs and eggs, anyone?
According to the National Retail Federation, consumers in the United States spent $4.4 billion on St. Patrick's Day in 2016, and I couldn't find a more updated number.
Well, we know the 2020 numbers were a little low, and 2021 was also probably relatively low. 2022, I feel like people are going to get really wasted.
Yeah, I will not be among them, unfortunately. So they spent $4.4 billion with a B in 2016 in the United States. This amount was down, actually, from the $4.8 billion spent in 2014. So I couldn't find more recent numbers than 2016. Update your website, National Retail Federation. So St. Patrick's Day is a big deal in especially cities that have had major waves of Irish immigrants, such as Boston, Chicago, New York City, and apparently Cleveland too. Cleveland, Ohio. In Chicago, the Irish are one of the largest ethnic groups. The city has many different St. Patrick's Day celebrations, the most well-known being the dyeing of the Chicago River. They have a river going through the city, and they literally put green dye in it.
I don't understand, but as long as you're not endangering the fishes, I guess it's okay.
Okay, so that's a little bit about St. Patrick's Day. Cincinnati, I don't think we have a parade. Or maybe,
there are some parades.
Maybe it's not.
There's not any like huge parade. Like it's not opening day parade.
That's what I was going to say, because
like
St. Patrick's Day and opening day are like really close, like within a few weeks. We usually save the parading until opening day.
There's at least one St. Patrick's Day parade in the city.
Yeah, but I've never been to it, so I don't know how big it is.
How many opening day parades have you been to?
We've been to quite a few. I mean...
Oh, yeah, because you used to be marching band.
Well, we only went to one when I was a marching band. I was more talking about the 4 years I spent working downtown.
Oh, yeah, those don't count.
Okay, so that's a little bit about St. Patrick's Day. And now we are going to talk a little bit about beer in Ireland. So a quick history according to wikipedia.org, who is the arbiter of truth. I read that on the internet, and so it must be true.
I mean, our parents told us to not talk to strangers on the internet, and now we summon strangers on the internet to get in their car to drive us places. So
I don't do that. So quick history. Brewing in Ireland has a long history, they say. Production currently stands at over 8 million hectoliters. I have no idea what a hectoliter is. It's probably some European voodoo.
Is it like 1,000 liters? You keep going.
So the production currently stands at over 8 million hectoliters, and approximately half the alcohol consumed is beer. I'm assuming the other half is whiskey.
So a hectoliter is 1,000 liters, which is equal to about 26.5 gallons.
Okay. Is that a lot?
It's a little less than a barrel of beer. So a hectoliter is 0.85 beer barrels.
1 hectoliter is
0.85 beer barrels.
Okay, so less than 8 million. 85% of 8 million, I guess. Is that how you figure that out?
Calculator. So you said 8 million?
Yeah.
So that'd be 6.8 million barrels. Ish.
Okay. So lagers accounts for 63.5% of the beer sold. The market share for stouts is 29.3%, and ale is 6.2%. By the beginning of the 19th century, there were over 200 breweries in the country, 55 of them in Dublin. In the 19th century, the numbers of breweries fell to about 50, and by 2007, only about 12 remained.
So that's like kind of similar to what happened in Cincinnati, but different. They didn't have prohibition, but that probably is starting to be a count of big beer companies becoming a thing versus my local pub.
Well, I'm a little fuzzy on Irish, history. They did have a famine, a potato famine, but I'm sure if they were struggling, I don't know. I'm sure that impact trickled down.
Oh, for sure.
But
if you have issues growing potatoes, you probably have issues growing other things as well.
Or buying beer or drinking beer. If you can't eat, you're not drinking.
Yeah.
I don't know, though. I don't know the history. Historically, Ireland produced ale without the use of hops, as the plant is not native to that country. But because of this, they had to import their hops when they do use it, which they primarily import from England.
At least they're close. It's not like us trying to import our hops from Germany, which we do on occasion.
Yeah.
We as a country, not we personally.
Did some research. The Irish, they have basically two types of beers that they're, known for, I guess. They have a stout and an Irish red ale or an Irish ale. We're going to talk about the stouts first. And just for context, I did some research on the different types of stouts. So a stout is a dark, top fermented beer with a number of variations, including dry stout, oatmeal stout, milk stout, chocolate stout, and imperial stout. So a milk stout has lactose, which makes it sweet and body to the finished beer.
Yummy, yummy milk stouts.
Yeah, we homebrewed a milk stout. It was pretty good. I don't know if we added lactose, if it was included.
We did.
Oh, did we? Okay. It was delicious either way. An oatmeal stout is a stout with a proportion of oats, normally a maximum of 30%, added during the brewing process. So I guess normally you have grain barley.
Yes. Well, so it's yeast, hops, malt, and water. Usually it's a barley malt. Pretty sure.
In an oatmeal stout, you have oats.
Yes. Which is a
added in
different
there.
type of green.
Yeah. There's also a chocolate stout, which has
Chocolate stout.
yeah, it's one of our favorites here. Chocolate stouts have a noticeable dark chocolate flavor, which is typically added using chocolate malt, a malt that has been roasted.
Has been roasted or kilned. So kiln is a different way to roast. Like you typically throw like clay pots in a kiln to dry them out and glaze them.
Got it.
Well, no, they should be already dried out by the time you do it. It's to fully cure them or whatever.
So you add that.
Science.
So you do that until it acquires a chocolate color.
Yes.
And then there's, of course, an imperial stout, also known as a Russian imperial stout. They are strong, dark beers with high ABV and are among the darkest beer styles. So that's kind of a rundown of the different types of stouts, because the Irish have a very specific style that they typically go for.
Is that what our next beer is?
No,
Okay.
we're almost there. So the Irish stouts, dry or an Irish stout. So here's a little bit of history about that. So with milk or sweet stouts becoming the dominant stout in the UK in the early 20th century, it was mainly Ireland that the non-sweet or standard stout was being made. As standard stouts have a drier taste than the English or American sweeter stouts, they became to be called dry stout or Irish stout to differentiate them from stouts with added lactose or oatmeal. The best-selling Irish stouts worldwide are made by Guinness at St. James Gate Brewery in Dublin.
What's Guinness?
It's a very tasty beer. And of course, the beer that we just had by Rheingeist, it replicated a Guinness or an Irish style dry stout very well.
Mm-hmm. It did.
So that brings us to beer number 2. Which is a Irish ale.
3 days later.
This is a really yummy beer. What am I drinking?
We are drinking Conway's Irish Ale. It is from Great Lakes Brewing up in Cleveland, Ohio. ABV is 6.3%. IBU is 25. And the description is a pint for P.A. Conway, our co-owner's grandfather and police officer, who'd likely uphold that an Irish ale with full-bodied caramel malt flavors is just the ticket. It's really, really good. Like, it's really good.
It smells really yummy too. Except now I can't smell because allergies, but it smelled really good for like half a second.
By the way, I've never had either of these beers before.
I have not either.
So this is a first time beer that I've had. But this is an Irish ale, which is the topic of the next prominent style in Ireland, according to wikipedia.org, arbiter of truth. An Irish red ale, also known as red ale or Irish ale, is a style of pale ale that is brewed using a moderate amount of kilned malts and roasted barley, giving the beer its red color. Its strength typically ranges from 3.8 to 4.8 alcohol by volume, although some craft varieties can be seen as high as 6, or in the case of what we're drinking, 6.3%.
Oh, snap.
In the United States, the name can also describe a darker amber ale or a red beer that is a lager with caramel coloring. Due to its sweet taste and relatively low alcohol content, Irish red ales are very popular with American craft brewers. Kilkenny and Schmidtwicks are by far the most common macro-brewed varieties.
I thought it was like Smittix. At some point, someone told us how to pronounce it, and I am good at pronouncing German things, especially after I have been drinking German beers. But Irish things always throw me for a loop.
I'm sure we will get criticized for our pronunciation. So it goes on, of course. Irish red ale originated in the city of Kilkenny in the early 1700s. Although ale had been brewed in the city at St. Francis Abbey since the 14th century, the origins of Irish ale date to a brewery established by Daniel Sullivan in 1702. A merchant class of predominantly Catholic families were involved in brewing, distilling, melting, and milling in the city.
Wait, Catholic families drink? What?
3 days later.
West side, best side. Continue.
By 1918, the Sullivan family had grown deeply indebted and were forced to sell their brewery, leaving Schmidtwicks as the dominant force in the market.
But I mean, I can get a Smittix anywhere. I'm just going to keep pronouncing it Smittix because I swear somebody told us that at some point. At me if I'm wrong, because I don't know.
This style of ale was only available in Ireland until the 1960s, when Smittix began actively pursuing foreign markets. The company was acquired by Guinness in 1965, and the brand was relaunched alongside other now discontinued beers brewed by Smittix, such as Time Ale and Time Barley Wine. In 1987, Guinness developed an export-only brand of Smittix, known as Kilkenny, which has since evolved into its own distinct variant with a redder color, more bitter taste, and foamier head. While Irish ale had been brewed for centuries, the term Irish red ale was rarely, if ever, used in Ireland. It was popularized in the United States to describe a style of reddish amber ale that has its roots in Ireland. And in 1981, Coors licensed Killian's Irish Red from Heineken France, which became one of the top-selling specialty beer brands in the United States.
If that's not capitalism, I don't know what is. An American company buying a beer from a French company that is supposed to be Irish, but no Ireland is contained in this product. I mean, I'm sure the recipe is, but...
Killian's Irish Red, which is actually an amber lager, popularized the name Irish Red Ale to such an extent that the term was imported back into Ireland by many craft breweries as a classification.
Capitalism. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Like, I get it, but...
In 2013, the Smithwick's Brewery in Kilkenny was finally closed. All brewing moved to St. James's Gates in Dublin. In order to keep the tradition of Kilkenny brewing alive, descendants of both Smithwick's and Sullivan families opened a new brewery in Kilkenny and relaunched the Sullivan brand name in 2016.
So basically, we should go to Ireland and get us some Sullivans.
That seems to be the brand name to go with. I don't know if that's not really a comprehensive necessarily look at Ireland beer, but it's at least two different styles.
I mean, I will drink me some Ireland-based beers.
Yeah.
But I don't discriminate when it comes to beer.
I mean, we tend to drink the German beers, of course.
I mean, it's what's readily available for us.
And the German style beers, for sure. There's, of course, a whole different side of Ireland. There's the whiskey side, which I know nothing about.
I know a little bit, but I do not drink whiskey. So I'd say let's do a whiskey episode, but we don't drink whiskey.
Nope. So yeah, that's all I have. But how do you like the Great Lakes, did you say?
It's really, really yummy.
It does have...
You better have saved 2 of these for me.
Yeah, we should have 4 left.
2 of them better be on my shelf.
It does remind me of Killian's, but it's a little bit more smoother.
It's super smooth.
And it's more flavorful.
It's like a little sweet. I'm getting some floral. I'm getting lots of yummy. Now, I could be on drugs because like my allergies are all over the map right now.
I don't know about floral. Definitely caramel notes.
Maybe it's more caramel that I'm getting. Dude, this weather is just totally screwing with my allergies. Like I can't. Nothing is right with my head. More so than usual. I
could drink this all year. But I'm a pretty decent fan of Killian's. Like, typically I do buy a 6-pack or a 12-pack around this time.
Well, it's what's available to us.
Killian's is typically available year-round.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, it's easy to grab.
It's a good style of beer. Like I said, I'm a fan of the multi-beers. But if I'm in the mood for like a macro beer, I do typically gravitate towards a Killian's or...
like a Coors Banquet, which I'm afraid Shift Beers put out a show that Beth was not on. And apparently all they did was drink a case of Coors Banquet.
Oh, God. Yeah, I used to be a fan of Coors Banquet. I don't really go for Budweiser. What are the other big beers?
Yingling.
Yeah, I typically go for Yingling. But this is a step above that for sure. You can tell. It has more flavor.
I would drink this. I would brew this.
So first of all, before this week's dad joke, I wish everyone a happy and safe St. Patrick's Day.
I see what you did there.
Are you ready for the dad joke? That was not the dad joke. All right. What's small, lucky, and green all over?
I don't know.
Yeah, you were close.
A leprechaun?
A leprechaun who recycles.
Ah. That is not the button I would have gone with, but you do you.
Well, that does it for this week's show. Thanks so much for listening. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to us on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Craft Parenting Podcast. You can also get a hold of us via email, which is craftparentingpodcast@gmail.com.
If you like what you hear, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. make sure to share the show. It's what helps our show grow. If you'd like to send us stuff, such as fan mail, craft supplies, Joe says the house is going to explode. I think we're fine. We can fit at least 5 more craft projects in here. Or sanity, because I'm pretty sure Joe needs some more sanity at this point. We have a P.O. box.
All this information is available on our website, which is www.craftparentingpodcast.com.
That's where we post the show notes. Plus, there's lots of blog posts about some of the stuff that doesn't make it into the podcast, like our weekend reviews. I'm probably going to write a blog post about crafting ADD lately and how that's been affecting our lives lately. We'll see if my ADD will let me focus enough to make a blog post about it.
All right. And with that, I'm Joe.
And I'm Caroline.
See you next time on the Craft Parenting Podcast. You ready?
Yes.
You're gonna count down. Do I count down now? How does this work?
What episode is this?
We have a new board and I have the intro. Do we even need to count down if we have the intro?
You count. Historically, you count. I say this is the Craft Parenting Podcast. But I think last time you just hit the music and went.
All right.
Clevington? Where is Clevington? Have you been to Clevington before?
No.
I don't think I have either.
But so they say it is observed by the Catholic Church, the Anglican Communion, the Anglican Communion.
Anglican.
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 Anglican. I made a boo-boo instead of putting the Rheingeist beer in the 2 Rheingeist glasses. I put one in a Rheingeist glass and one in a Bachfest glass. So I get the Rheingeist glasses because they're Zoogeist glasses. And Zoogeist is the best Geist. Are they going to bring back Zoogeist? Is that still a thing that they do? I don't think that it is because I don't remember hearing anything about it. I really like our Zoogeist glasses, though.
Is that all you like about it?
Yes. This is a very different beer. I like it. It's not as different as... Wait, that's next episode. I can't talk about that. Not recording in order is throwing me for a loop. Is this the past or the future? Or the present?
Focus.
I don't know.